Hello, all. Welcome back. So, I promised, I think it's now been 2 weeks ago, that I would give one more update at least to see how things are going after we have switched from training a convolutional data model, which I explained in the past as a data model that has no long-term memory or no memory at all, as it were. Which, by the way, is complicated to think about, right? Like most people, you're going like if you don't know, if you've never trained anything, trained a learning model, trained a model, you might think, well, how does that even work? And the way it works is that offline, right? There's a process that looks at what happened over a course of a large step of events, and then tries to predict what a good action would be in a given scenario. But while the model, which is the result of all of that math, is actually navigating the game or any kind of scenario, it's only looking at the information in front of it right now, and then tries to make the best decision based on all that math that was done ahead of time. So it doesn't have any persistence. It's given one frame, it's activated, it evaluates that frame, and then it's gone. And it gets effectively, you could think of it as coming into existence afresh for every single frame that it processes. It's not quite like that. It's not that expensive, but it's similar in concept. Now, when we switch to an LSTM, we switch to a kind of model that can string together events. And so, for example, it could, like the CNN, for example, would have a very clear problem if it's supposed to step on a staircase and then hit the space bar, but once it's on the staircase, it can't see the staircase because it's only seeing its own character. Things like that. It also can't do things like go into an inventory screen. Like, it could pick up, like if you pick up a better weapon than the one you're carrying, then you don't see it anymore because you've already picked it up. If you happen to open your inventory screen, you don't remember how you got there. If you pick a weapon that's good there, you don't know if it's better or worse than what you're already carrying. That makes this kind of game very, very difficult. It turns out that a kind of model that could effectively be trained to beat some of the best chess players on the planet, or in fact, every chess player on the planet, every human on the planet, doesn't have to be able to remember anything it was hoping to accomplish in the previous frame at all. And that frankly was new to me. Like I had never done training before and I'd never worked in this field directly before. And so for me, this was new. It was a quite striking realization of how firm the limitations of machine learning are and how difficult they can be to overcome. So we had a few choices. One choice would have been to stick with the CNN, but to always give it history data. So just basically just say, I'm always going to show you the last X number of frames of the game and what you've done before, so you can use that to help plan the next move. But that only works up to a certain point as well, because I mean, it becomes combinatorially much, much more expensive to keep passing on additional frames. And even when Google trained a CNN to play Pong, they did it by only giving it like 3 or 4 frames, like just enough that it would have information that it could infer the speed of the ball and the speed at which it was able to move the paddle, and that's it. So it would get like that little bit of history and that little bit of awareness to be able to maneuver and play Pong. We have a more complicated game here. It takes place over the course of hundreds of turns. We've already done what we can, if you look at the previous episode, to make sure that the rewards are not too sparse. So we've tried to set up a matrix of rewards that kind of capture the model, where you start to have magnets drawing you to doorways, you start to have constant rewards for if you're dealing damage, slight penalties if you take damage, and then just sort of magnets to drag you through the game and to get you to explore things and to learn things. So we now have a convolutional data, this LSTM data model, long-term, short-term memory model. It's um, uh, it's much harder to train than I thought. I will say this: I have completely fried, totally burned to the ground, 2 of these things, and I have reset my training completely. I can see if I can find for you an example of what this looks like when you've really cooked it. Let me see if I can get that set up. I have to admit I could have prepared a bit better for this episode. But for now, let me just do this so you can see what I'm doing and make myself small. Yep. Here we are. Okay, So here's the screen. I can actually make that a bit bigger, but for now I'm a little bit afraid to. I won't. And if I just say ls, I look at some of the older checkpoints. Maybe I saved it. I hope I did. You can see now I have a lot of backup directories. So I wrote myself a script a while ago that would allow me to. Oh, let me show you something very different right now. Right here we have our AI running. As always, he's still chugging along over here, still working. And at this point, every so often, he should get to the stairs. Let me grab, however, our window over here. Let me just keep this over here. No, not yet. Let me keep him over here on the right. Stop it. Okay, and let me look at the records directory. Okay, I should have made that a little bit bigger. So this is now the current records directory. This is, I haven't backed it into backup folder, although you can see there's a lot. Okay, so now this is the LSTM, which we were hoping would learn that it could, when it's on the stairs, it should then press the spacebar. And as you can see, we've now basically locked it into place. So when it's here, it can't move, it can't open a menu, and it just gets slapped with penalties that are accumulating here on the left while it is failing to hit the spacebar. Then, as soon as it hits the spacebar, all of these points are refunded, so the net balance is 0, which is rather important. And then some additional points are added for sort of beating the level. Now this could take some time. While that's running, we'll try to analyze why that might be. So it turns out, there you got it. And you got 630 points. I think that's like, that means you were there for at least 3 times, like at least 2,000 turns. It was basically here for 2,000 turns, mashing buttons before it hit the spacebar. That is absolutely not better than the CNN did. Definitely no better than the CNN did. Why? Why is it so bad? So what I did is I took these log files, I saved them, and I can extract a CSV that has just the refunds. And there we can play a little game. So I also have written, actually Gemini has written, something called Run a Stair Simulator. So we now have a curriculum where we place the bot just inside a room with just stairs, and then we let it find the spacebar. Now the results of that curriculum are actually quite promising. If I look at, this is extracted from a bunch of log files. And here you could see that at the beginning, the model wasn't doing well. Like the model kind of fell apart. And it became more and more random in how long it would search for the spacebar. Then I activated the curriculum training. And with the curriculum training, the model got very, very good at hitting the spacebar. But then, so why is it now so bad at hitting the spacebar again? Why is it taking thousands of turns when I actually had it to a point where if I scroll to the bottom of this, after like, a little while of curriculum training, the number of missed taps was actually very, very low on any given attempt. It might go directly to the spacebar. It might spend a little bit of time just screwing around just because of a certain randomness there. So why did it go from being able to hit the spacebar so quickly back to taking thousands of turns? Well, here's the problem. We're running really into the limitations of what I can do here because the model has too big of an action space. It has a large keyboard to sift through. It still runs into the situation that the spacebar is basically kind of bad most of the time. And between one time where it is in a situation where it should be hitting the spacebar to go next to the stairs, and the next time that happens, it will still be multiple runs, like not even that many. I mean, it's pretty good at doing the basics. If I look at this now, look, since the last checkpoint at 5,700, right, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 level 2 descents. That's 11 level 2 descents inside of 50 runs. And actually, this one happened to also be a level 2 descent. So we're now approaching this kind of 20%, barrier. Like basically 20% of the time, it gets there. Yeah, that means it's mastering the rest of the level reasonably well. It's getting through the rest of the dynamics reasonably well. But that's still altogether hundreds of turns, and the model can really only track roughly what happens over a sequence of about 200 turns very effectively. So I tried. What's really funny here is, okay, I'm really sorry I couldn't show you the completely discombobulated, broken CNN or LSTM. What happened there, what I can tell you is that when you have the CNN unfrozen, you try to create a state where the memory model can start to feed back into the visual model again and give it feedback for details it might have missed, right? So the idea now is that if they're training together, then also eventually the CNN could start to recognize things on screen that the LST that it was missing before, because the LSTM goes back and says, hey, there's something up here, like something's not adding up. And I think that may be happening. And the reason why I think that may be happening is because I tried more recently, like earlier today, to do this curriculum training exercise for the stairs again. I wanted to see whether the curriculum training would converge again on there being this really nice, you know, this really nice graph that would eventually stop jerking all over the place. And I think what I saw is, yeah, this is all wrong. And what I saw actually, this is the first round of this curriculum training. And what I saw actually is that instead it got worse. It got significantly worse for quite a while. And it turns out, I think the reason is that between the LSTM and the CNN, they have started to focus on other parts of the screen. So what was working quite well before, which was, you know, I'm in a small room. I guess I just landed on the stairs. I mashed buttons, and now I realize that I have to hit spacebar, which was good. We in our curriculum, we're not putting additional text on the screen because it's just completely faked. It's just a map, and it has stairs, and you can move there, but it's just done in Python. It's not even running the game engine, and so there's stuff missing. And I think what happened is actually I now probably, after a couple of days of running the CNN and LSTM and letting them learn together and apparently not breaking them completely, they have focused on something else. And so putting it into this curriculum training room no longer helps. So actually, after this training run I did, I ended up deleting the curriculum train model and went back to the snapshot that it had before, where even it's struggling to find the spacebar. I decided, you know what, it's all right, whatever, right? I'll just let you figure it out. One thing I can do now, this is kind of neat. I will use the attention GUI again. GUI attention. Instead of backup, we'll go to the records. This will give us the latest one. Here, I can grab one that descended in some sensible number of steps. Somewhat sensible number of steps. Although that's really not sensible, by the way. It's not. Getting caught up with the fact that this is still Windows. Okay. There we go. And then we want this model. This is actually the latest model, not the other one there. Although the naming is strange. Oh, I think I know what happened there, but it doesn't matter. Oh, that's not the name. That's the name. Okay, that should work. Now what we can see is we can explore whether the combination effect of training the CNN and LSTM together and making only very small changes to the variables, just changing a couple things at a time, but not too much, is giving us different emphasis by the visual cortex of this thing, effectively. CNN is the visual cortex, than what we were seeing before. Okay. Over here, he's still chugging along. Okay. So it's pretty similar. Yeah. We still have generally. By the way, I have this thing where I can pause it now. I could also back up, but I have to go. This is interesting. So he's that these messages show up with some kind of a reward, which is true. So there's stuff there. Ah, wow. Okay, that was amazing. That was amazing. You see, as soon as it found a way through here, which is almost like naturally, by the way, this was like what took a week to get the first one to do. It sees the doors, right? And its focus shifts completely. It goes, actually, this is where we're going to go forward. Okay, it shot that guy. Good. Again, it kept its distance and it shot that guy. Now, did it do that? Nah, see, it did it because of the message over here. So it has learned to pay attention to this part of the screen. It hasn't figured out that this also matters when you're out of ammo. Has it figured out that this is important? I don't know. But it now has a general, sense of you really want to go that way. And now it's going to screw around in the menu. I've seen this before. So this is actually interesting. Everyone is dead. The last time I saw this behavior, I have seen this behavior. The last time I saw this behavior, he was close to the stairs, but he had 2 zombies that he had not yet attacked. And I thought he was doing it just to waste time. I thought that he had somehow learned that, you have 2 enemies around you, so you're better off in a menu. You'll postpone the penalty of getting hurt if you just screw around in the menu. But that's not what's happening here. It's like he's getting closer to the stairs, and thus he is getting more likely to mash random buttons. I hope this. I actually think I just need to let that part bake, because he hasn't quite put it together. Like it hasn't quite put together that once it's actually on the stairs, that's when this whole thing matters, and that's when you can try random crap until you hit it. But it has somehow. Oh, he's on the stairs. Okay, so he's gotten to the stairs. Yeah, he's gotten to the stairs, and now he's just mashing buttons. And as you can see, nothing happens, right? I don't let anything else happen. At this point, what I've done to just save the... And the reason is, by the way, the reason is the following. I noticed that there were times where he was on the stairs and he would hit the spacebar repeatedly and not descend. And it turned out the reason is that he was hitting the spacebar while he happened to be in a menu. Now, there is another thing, though, that is interesting. This is very, very important. This is going to help us out. Did you notice last time he was here, I mentioned that there is nothing telling him that this area is important. And now I see right here, I don't know if you can see it, but I see a mild red shine around this, and I see, a shine around this and around this. I have no idea why the model is focusing on this part over here. That's a little bit off for me. But I like this shine, and I think I've seen enough evidence from the replays that generally speaking, I'm seeing these heat maps in the right spot. So I think it's kind of in the right spot. I've set it to run again, so here you can see it counting. So in that particular run, it took a couple hundred turns of sitting here and mashing buttons until it eventually got the spacebar and to send it to the next level. And I think that's interesting. So this part I'm very optimistic about. I'm very optimistic about this. This is going to take time because the learning rate is very low. I'm really sorry I couldn't show you a completely and utterly destroyed LSTM. But I learned the hard way that if you try to set the learning rate too high, or if you try to set the entropy coefficient too high, or if you try to change the incentive structures too quickly because you're frustrated that the model isn't picking up the right detail, when you're letting the CNN and the LSTM learn together, it's much more fragile. And you can end up with models where it just lights up nothing. Like I was running the whole thing and it was basically just completely random. Nothing was really lighting up. The visual cortex of the thing, as you would say, was completely destroyed. And that's why it's taken 2 weeks to make this next update, because I spent a week and a half trying to figuring out how not to destroy the model completely, because I was wrenching on it the same way that I had been wrenching on the CNN to get it to start to explore the level. And when I tried to do this here, it just absolutely doesn't work. So you have to be more patient. It takes more tries. Fortunately, the FPS is still actually fairly high, like around 88. It's not too bad. And what it's doing is it's now basically backtracking at any given point in time. The overall learning goes back like a couple thousand turns, actually. But the sliding window of trying to predict is about 200 turns max. So we'll see. We'll see how this does. But at this point, I really will do nothing much to it for like a week, because I think that the reshaping of the visual cortex to start to notice these other texts, like that thing that says hit space, is happening very slowly. And probably the best thing now is to let that develop. Hello, folks. Okay, this is going to be a very quick update. It's now Monday, the 27th. So there's been basically another 24 hours since the video I recorded. And as I described, all I did was just let it run. I decided that doing a stairs, as you may recall, the main challenge is getting the stairs to work. Doing a curriculum training on the stairs seemed like it would damage the new combined model where the LSTM is training together with the visual cortex, and they're both evolving. And the main thing I want to keep an eye on is just how often is it reaching the next level? Like what share of runs? What is the negative entropy loss? What am I seeing on entropy loss? And the explained variance. So how well is the model adapting? I want to see on average if the number of tries to hit the spacebar when you're on the stairs is decreasing. And I want to see whether in the heat map display, whether I can see the model start to notice the text on the top right that says that it's time to hit the spacebar. We're also going to be maybe analyzing one of those replays in a little bit more detail again, because I think those are fun. Okay, so let's start with the first question. The first question is, just running at it, do we see a tendency to hit the next level more often? Has that improved? So I'm going to make myself small again. And here we have the screen. And we do this again. That's just going to overwrite the file in place, so I don't really have to worry about anything there. The next thing I wanted to check is, like I said, do we complete the level more often? Now, what I see here, again, is already fairly promising if I just look at the recent history from there, but that was already earlier today. So I'm gonna do my usual trick here. I'm still too lazy to write a graph, although I'm starting to think hard about it. Now you just see, like, this is a lot of freaking timestamps, and that's a lot of files. Yeah, it only writes a file every 50th attempt as a normal checkpoint, or when you reach level 2, and I think I'm gonna have to start changing those rules, or I'm gonna have to start letting him go into level 2. I think this might be the time. So my goal was basically to say, if it's every second or third time, right, I should let him start to advance, because I don't want him to completely ossify on just level 1. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back, so I start about, I'm gonna do my old trick that is really, really lame, but does get the job done. As you can see there, by the way, this is an old one. This is earlier today. It was running, it was 1,000 runs, and it got to level 2 300 times. That's 1/3 of the time. Now it's later in the day, and I can see that actually it's climbed to 340. So it is now 34% of the time that the agent is completing level 2. This has been advancing very, very, like, deliberately, very, very steadily throughout the day. The only thing that's really still very weird is we definitely still see a very strong aversion to the spacebar. I don't know why at this point. I really don't know why. Don't know what the answer is. Okay, no, it's exactly, this is also 1 day worth of data. 2116, I can chop off the first couple of rows. Okay, I can show you guys this tab. You can see some things here, not a lot. I'll probably just end up zooming in on this part of the video because I don't really feel like sharing some things here. So this is slightly early. This is it. Everything else happened a day later, so I delete. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to once again insert a, I'm going to do it like this, insert a chart. Very simple. This is nonsense. And it's going to be a line chart. Just gonna treat this as labels. It's starting there. Wow, this is interesting. Okay, so this is actually very interesting. This is a sign that something is happening. Okay, this is a sign that something's happening. I know it looks like a mess, and I know this looks bad, but actually it's not that bad. I think it's good. See, what I see here is I see basically completely random, like no progress whatsoever for about half the day. Now there is a spike. Granted, is that bad? Is that horrible? Not necessarily. Because now what I see after the spike is I see a general trend to converge. This gives me hope. This gives me hope that if this continues to run for a while, it will converge more. And it gives me hope that it has picked up on a new pattern, right? The model is doing something different now than it was doing before it had some kind of realization. So something happened in the CNN. It's finding some kind of signal. At first, it might have gotten confused, but it's getting back. And even though this was worse than before, the fact is, I think this is gonna help. I think this is gonna help. I think this is a good sign. Let's start here. So first and foremost, okay, this is reasonable. I see a bit less shading here around this area than I would have yesterday. I still see some point of light here, and I think it has figured out that there's something important about this area, and I think it's still fixed on the point. So this is a reasonable strategy. It is a perfectly reasonable strategy in this game to run down here and get attacked more or less by one enemy at a time until you've killed some of them and then head into the building. It could just be that it associates getting down towards this area with potentially having a chance to take out like one enemy at a time. And this is fantastic. Okay, this is the money shot. Now, unfortunately, I would say, I'm a little bit disappointed. The model is not really picking up on these ASCII characters per se, right? It's not really lighting up these two dudes, which is a bit unfortunate. Instead, it's lighting up that it is identified that when this shows up, you can fire your weapon. You hit F. Hit F! Something will die. And there you go. It's yeah? It also sees, okay, something is going on up here. It's they disappeared. Now, it has not figured out that this is about reloading your gun. But it's looking down here. It's looking down here. It could very well be that something good will happen there. Ah, now fascinating. Look at that. So basically, it sees this. It didn't see this square before. And I think it's recognized that this pattern, the fact that there's walls here and then an entry, this is important. Now that tells me the ASCII display in front of it definitely matters. It's not like it's completely ignoring the map or has no idea that there are different ASCII characters. It definitely got that, but it hasn't really made the connection between, you know, these characters, which are H's, by the way, in the game. Pretty funny. I'm trying to question whether he actually. Oh, no. Okay, cool. So he's back in. The model lights up like crazy. The visual cortex lights up like crazy. It's like, go that way. Go that way. The answer's over there. So, stop bouncing into the menu, dude. Driving me nuts. It has still, I think he starts button mashing before he's even on the stairs. I think he knows like somehow the stairs are coming. And he knows that on the stairs you just gotta go crazy. Maybe you'll hit some button. Still doesn't know which one. It's painful. Agonizing. But you can see when he's in the map, the right area is more or less lighting up. But man, like, and the model is like, oh, you know, don't try to go there. It could, you know, some of those signals are negative. So it's not like, you know, where's it up is good. Okay, now here we are. Now, remember, there's only one thing I'm really looking for, which is, are things up here starting to light up? And going back to, if you watched yesterday's video, you noticed that there was just the faintest shine, right, in this area in general. There was almost nothing to see. Now I have a bright spot here, right? I have a bright spot here. It's imprecise, and I really wish I understood how these things work in even more detail. But actually, it's roughly lined up. Like, I think it's getting it. I really think my hypothesis that the combination of LSTMs and are recognizing something new here, and that there is a chance of this converging further, I think is vindicated here. Another thing that we're at is we see that we have 34% level completion, right, in terms of the number of runs. I'm inclined to unlock level 2, but I think one more thing I need to see is exactly, I'm going to kill this, exactly what are the actual stats like. So here we're running, right? Every once in a while, oh god. Oh, he got it, that was fast. Wow, that was fast. Okay, good job. But now I'm going to sit there again for a bunch. Here we go. Now this is important. God, I should screenshot it. We have a entropy loss of minus 258, or I would sometimes say a negative entropy loss of 258. That means it's still very actively exploring and learning. We have an explained variance of 52%. That means there are still scenarios, obviously, where the visual cortex is not quite able to get what's going on, and that's obvious from the fact that it's smashing the spacebar. I'm very, very happy to see it start to light up on that area on the top right. And my dilemma right now is I'm going to be out of town for 3 days. I could either stop the experiment, which would be, 3 days of running that I lose. But I have to say, like, what happened last time I traveled is I came back after 3 days, and the model had really ossified into a specific pattern that I had to throw it away. I had to throw away a 3-day model because I had not given it enough of a good way to get to and interact with the spacebar. And I got a model after 3 days that had really gotten insanely good at getting through to the stairs, and then simply completely deprogrammed itself, even with me injecting 5% entropy coefficient. It never, after 10,000 plus tries, never, ever touched the spacebar. That is how bad the spacebar is, for Doombot if he doesn't know exactly what he's doing. So Doom Guy really needs to learn this exact scenario, and it's just going to take time because it has to back propagate this across all the other hundreds of moves that it made. If I unlock level 2, the problem is the amount of time that he's going to spend parked on stairs. I'm sorry. The amount of, god damn it, dude, stop. Do not disturb me. The amount of time that he's going to spend parked on stairs relative to the amount of time that he's going to spend trying to get himself killed on level 2 is going to be less, right? So if my focus is the stairs, and I just want this to keep converging, I really shouldn't change anything right now. I should really just leave it exactly as is. I like the fact that the entropy loss is still above 2.5. That means it's still very, very fluid, very, very actively learning. I think I'm going to back it up just in case I come back and it's at like a 1 and it's maybe too ossified to start reasoning through level 2, because when I start pitching to level 2, it's going to see a bunch of shit it's never seen before, and it's going to wig out. Like it's going to have no idea what's going on, and if it's too ossified by the time I do that, then it's just not going to be productive. It's actually not going to be constructive. Or at least it would take a very, very long time. But I think I'm going to try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back everything up. I'm going to make a checkpoint here, and then I'm going to go. Like I'm going to be gone for 3 days. I'm going to look at it on Friday. I have a day off. I can play with it for a long time, and I'm going to learn whether it did okay. We're going to see whether it's progressed, and I will probably record another quick update. See you guys later.